Welcome to Faces and Aces in Las Vegas, a podcast where we share great Vegas stories and we talk to the people who make Vegas a fantastic place to visit. My name is Chris. Welcome to the show. If you're a regular listener to Faces and Aces, thank you so much for hanging out while we've been going through our transition period. Been trying some new things and playing around with the format a little bit. And if you're a new listener to the show, here's what our show's about. We invite people to come on our show to share their great, cool, fun, exciting Vegas story. Then we head out to Las Vegas and try to find an interview to match up with that story. So, for example, episode 15, titled Kylo Ben, my friend Kyle came on the show and told the story about how he got spanked by a waitress for not ordering a beer. So myself and my friend Aaron went out to Vegas and we interviewed a waitress from the Hofbrauhaus. And she explained what that experience is like from her side. In a nutshell, that's what we do here on the show. We have people on to tell stories, and then we go out to Vegas and find an interview that matches that story. So for today's show, we have something cool, something that I'm really excited about. We have on Jim and Stan from the Jim and Derek YouTube channel. They do fun YouTube videos that parody other things such as cooking shows. They have a show called Bro Tips. One of the things that they do parody gambling videos where they give you really bad gambling advice. Their videos cracked me up, and so I invited them to come on the show and talk about it. And then we headed out to Vegas and talked to someone who actually does gambling videos for real. We talked to Heather, and she does this as a profession. She makes online gambling videos that teaches people how to play properly. But more than that, she's also created an online school where she teaches people how to deal so they can go on and actually get a dealing job in Vegas. And the other cool thing about having Heather on is she's a Las Vegas native. So she literally knows where the bodies are buried. And we actually talk about that a little bit. So before we get into our conversation with Jim and Stan and our interview with Heather, I'd like to throw out a couple of quick shout outs. This week, we talked to a few people that I had such a good time hanging out with. They will be on the show to share their Vegas stories. I'm currently in story collecting mode for my next Vegas trip. So right now I'm asking people to give their Vegas stories so that way I can set up interviews for my next Vegas trip when I head out there in May. And I reached out to a couple of podcasts to see if they would be interested in sharing their Vegas stories. One of them is the Dark Angels and Pretty Freaks podcast. Neil and Annalise from that show. I chatted with them earlier this week, and they had a bunch of great stories. We had a good time chatting, so I'm looking forward to sharing their stories with you, and I'd like to thank them for sharing their stories. And also Scott from the Secret Society Club podcast. He just went there for the first time a couple months ago, and he has amazing tales to tell. He had the perfect Vegas trip for a first-timer. Also, one more, Todd Gades. He is also a fellow Vegas enthusiast. We follow each other on Twitter. He came on and shared one of his stories. So thank you all for sharing your Vegas stories. I look forward to matching up good interviews with your stories, and we will have those in the near future on this show. So, if you have a great Vegas story that you'd like to share with the world, you can find us over on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook over at Faces and Aces LV. Or you can email us. Our email address is contact@facesandaceslv.com. Or if you don't really want to be in touch with us and you just want to leave us an anonymous story, you can call our voicemail line. Our voicemail number is 702-381-3657. All stories are welcome. I can't promise that I'm going to use all the stories, but if your story is interesting and entertaining and fun, we'll play it here on the show, and we'll try to find an interesting interview to match your story. So next up on the agenda, I got to give you the heads up. In the iTunes description for this show, it says that this is a clean show. And as we're going on and getting more interesting Vegas stories, maintaining that clean status is getting harder to do. So I haven't decided yet if I'm actually going to just change it from clean to explicit or just specifically the episodes that have explicit content. We'll figure it out in the near future, but I'm giving you the heads up now. This episode is explicit. So if you're listening to this episode with the kids in the car, you might want to save it for private time later. Throw it in your earbuds, listen to it when the kids are, you know what, actually pull over, let the kids out of the car, then start driving again, and then you could listen to this show. Yeah, so there's the fair warning, the fair heads up. In this episode, there are a few F-bombs. And so if you want to pause the show, come pick it up later, now's a good time to do that. For the next segment, what we have is a callback to the episode that I was talking about before, episode 15, Kylo Ben, where we got spanked at the Hofbrauhaus. I happened to be listening to another podcast that got released the exact same week, a couple days after our episode came out, and they also talked about their experience at the Hofbrauhaus. I thought, what are the chances of two podcasts the exact same week talking about getting their asses spanked by a Bavarian woman? Who knew? So I reached out to them and asked them, is it okay if I play a little bit of your experience on our podcast? They were more than happy to share. The podcast is called the Mixed Feelings Podcast. The hosts are Cassie and Mandy. And the gist of their show is they're just two mommies who get together and talk about shit. They talk about current events, they talk about life, and they just do it in a really funny way. In this particular episode, they talked about their experience of going to Hofbrauhaus and getting their ass smacked by their waiter. Please enjoy Cassie and Mandy from the Mixed Feelings Podcast.
Yeah, so our friends Caitlin and Ward, it was Ward's birthday. So for his birthday, he chose this restaurant down in St. Pete called Hofbrauhaus. It's this huge German, what do you even
beer
call
hall.
it? It's just a beer hall, like these long tables and...
It's a replica of the one that they have in Munich.
Yeah, and the waitresses are dressed like St. Pauli girls, and the guys are wearing
have on lederhosen bottoms.
Oh my gosh, and there's like this band, and they're also wearing partial lederhosen, and they were fucking crunk.
Yeah, they would just come and clear your dinner off the table while you're eating and set up their instruments right on your table and just be like, oh, are you eating? We're playing here now. Thanks.
Yeah. Fucking the squeeze box and the what did he have? He had
a flugelhorn,
a big huge horn. It was like something, and he played Ricola.
Yeah, and then the whole restaurant would say Ricola.
It was so great.
It was so fun.
And he had the wooden spoons in his back pocket. And Caitlin,
yeah.
She said, wait, what did she say?
She was like, oh, if you ask them, they'll play those. Like she meant on your hand.
Yeah. And she asked him, and next thing I know, they're dragging her to the end of the table, and they play the fucking spoons on her butt.
Yeah, they bent her over and just started playing the spoons on her butt like it was normal. Everyone's like, what the hell?
And Ward's just like, this is okay.
Yeah, he's like, yeah.
Play some Skinner.
Yeah. Play Freebird
on her butt with the spoons.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a place to go have an intimate conversation because it's super loud in there, but for like interactive entertainment dining, that place is the bomb.
It was so fun.
And the food is good. It's authentic.
Oh, but if you get shots, there's a consequence to getting shots.
Or a perk, whichever, depends on what side of the fence you're on.
Well, so if you order a shot of liquor, they bring you the shot of liquor, but they also fucking paddle you. They
bend
you over
a chair and paddle you 3 times. And they say the first one will be okay. Second one, hard. Third one, ouch.
Whatever, that guy busted my ass every single time.
I know.
He was beating me like I was his horrible child or something.
I know. I haven't gotten whooped like that in about 20 years.
Oh, I didn't mind.
I really didn't either.
No.
That's what Caitlin was like, how come all of your faces look like that when they spank? I was like, God damn,
they
what do you
took videos
think?
of us.
Yeah, it felt a little bit good.
I mean, they weren't bad to look at.
No, they weren't. Well, they broke the paddle on Ward's ass.
I know.
They paddled him and the wood split.
Well, the one guy
and he was like, that's that tight booty.
That tight booty. Yeah, oh my God. The bones of steel. Oh my God. But the guy who was whooping me, he tried to put me on the other table like we all were lined up.
Yeah, and I was like, no, she needs to come over here with friends.
And he said, I need swinging room. And I was like, no, you don't.
I know. This isn't fucking Babe Ruth All-Star.
I know. He was going to fucking hit me and I was just going to go shooting out of the window. I was going to go up on the balcony with the band.
Yeah, they had a little balcony that overlooked, like the sky is, or I mean, the ceiling is done up like the outside sky, and they have like all these huge elk and moose and stuff heads on the wall.
Man, it was cool.
The little band plays. And they play some German songs that you don't know what the fuck they're saying. And then they play regular songs, but like with the squeeze box and shit.
Every few minutes they hype everybody up with some kind of German beer drinking toasts. Yeah. Ziki zaki, ziki zaki, oi, oi, oi.
Yeah, they make everybody do that. My fucking arm was tired by the end of the night because I was drinking liters of beer.
I know. Justin was drinking multiple Dunkels. We called him Slam Dunkle.
Oh, yes! That was his nickname because that's the kind of beer he was drinking. I was like, well, that's a Slam Dunkle.
Well, we got the bill, and I looked at it, and he drank like fucking $70 worth of beer.
And I was like, well, that's the Slam Dunkle.
Oh, Slam Dunkle.
Thanks again to Cassie and Mandy for letting us play that little piece from their show. If you want to go check out their website, you can go find them at mixedfeelingspodcast.com. And over on Twitter, they are at mixedfeelingspc. They got an awesome show. I listen to them every week. I actually found them through Potter and Family. And Potter and Family is just a bunch of podcasters who got together on Twitter and decided to help each other and support each other and promote each other's shows. So if you're looking for a new podcast to listen to, go check out the hashtag Potter and Family on Twitter, or you could go to potterandfamily.com. And if you're a podcaster, it's a great place to get support and join a community. In the What Happened in Vegas segment, we have Jim and Stan. Jim and Stan are a couple of friends who make parody YouTube videos. They, along with a bunch of their friends, have a channel called Jim and Derek, D-E-R-E-K. I want to make sure to spell it right because if you type in Jim and Derek and spell Derek the other way, it goes to a completely different site, and you don't want that. You want this. So these guys make funny YouTube videos, and some of those videos are fake gambling tutorial videos. And basically, they give really bad gambling advice and post it online. Here's a little sample of that.
Hello, welcome to Stan's Grambling Tips. I'm Stan. Today in this episode, I'm going to teach you all the strategies of blackjack that nobody wants you to know. These are not in any books, not in any YouTube video. They are only used by professional players. How do I know this? I've been a blackjack dealer for many years in the high roller rooms. I've seen some people win lots and lots of money using strategies that you would not even think of doing. And just to get it out there, I want to share them with you. They don't want you to see this. I'm going to show you. What's the object of blackjack? The object is to get to 21 or get a blackjack and beat the dealer. If you don't have 21, there's no chance that you'll win.
So the videos are intentionally bad. I mean, they've added static lines going through the video. The music is way too loud. Sometimes you could just barely hear Stan. But what makes their YouTube channel really great are the comments on the YouTube page. You have to go to check it out just for the comments because they post these fake videos and some people actually think that it's real and they get mad at the bad advice. Some people respond with such anger and hostility. Just so you get a taste of what I'm talking about, here are a couple of the comments from their YouTube page. Try to show a video on how to teach people to play blackjack and then say all stupid shit the wrong way of what you really should do? Again, so lame, stupid dork. So clearly they had this guy going for a little while till he figured out that it was fake and he just got pissed about it. Here's another one. Someone wrote, stupid shit, completely wrong advices. Okay, I'll make sure to get good advices elsewhere. Basically, these guys are setting up troll bait for all the internet trolls, and they come along and they watch the video and leave negative responses. I get a big kick out of watching people get upset over nothing. If you're of like mind, please go check out the YouTube channel. All right, let's go to Jim and Stan and find out what happened in Vegas.
Yeah, we were only there for 4 days, but we did so much as one does, I guess, when they go to Vegas. You don't really sleep very much. We did a lot of gambling, a lot of craps gambling, and Stan here had really some of the biggest ups and downs that we've ever had.
It was pretty nuts.
Gambling.
So on the first day, one of the biggest things that I wanted to do was we were walking by a Casino Royale, and at Casino Royale they have 100 times odds on craps. So that means if you put a $5 bet, you can put up to $500 behind the line. And I said to myself, you know what? I kind of want to do this, really risky. But if I was up on the trip at that point, I would do it. And at that point, I think it was up maybe $100 or $200. Right. So I just flat out and did it. And I rolled myself a 4. And anyone who plays craps knows that a 4 or a 10 are the most uncommon numbers to make before a 7. And it was very difficult. And unfortunately, I didn't make my number. But just the thrill of throwing the dice, knowing that you had $500 on the line and you could win $1,000, was just insane. And we just had a blast from there.
By the way, just so the listener knows, that was Stan speaking. Jim, you spoke first, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, this is Stan here. Was that really it for the first day, or did we do anything else?
Well, we went to O'Shea's.
Oh, right, yeah.
Earlier on that day. That bar has changed since we last been there. And they have a craps table now. I'm not sure if they had before. And the craps dealers there were very nice. The table itself, there was no one at the table when we got there.
It was the first thing you saw when you walked in.
Right.
It was like, oh, big craps table.
And we started playing there. It wasn't going so well at first, but our buddy Gary was there watching us, and we said, hey, to the dealers, do you mind if Gary, our buddy who was not playing, throws the dice for us? And they let him. And Gary just had this amazing roll where he just rolled all the numbers, he just maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes of rolling, and he himself made no money, but Dan and I made quite a bit, and that helped. That was right at the beginning of the trip, so it kind of helped last us for the rest of the 4 days.
And that's actually kind of down then too, because I was in a rut and I was rolling terrible numbers, and here comes Gary, saves my ass, makes me a few $100, makes Jim here a whole bunch of money too. It was a lot of fun. We just had a lot of fun at that casino.
Where else did you guys go on your trip? Were there any other cool things that happened to you?
Yes, we went to a place called Battlefield Vegas, which is a gun range located just behind where Circus is. And what they do is you call them up from wherever you're staying on the Strip or downtown, and they'll actually send an open-air Humvee to your hotel with the driver all in military uniform, and you take a ride in this Humvee to their site. And just that ride alone, and it's a free ride, might be worth going there. Because it's really fun just to drive down the Strip in this open-air Humvee.
They're all ex-military veterans as well. So during our drive, one of the people that was on the trip with us, she lost her purse. Was it her purse?
Yeah, it was her purse.
Well, traveling, and it just fell into the middle of the road where this guy was taking a crazy turn. And so we had to yell at him because the wind was so gusty, and he was able to turn the thing around, cross like 8 lanes of traffic, and block traffic while he got off the Humvee to retrieve her bag. And it was just absolutely insane. You could never do that in another kind of vehicle.
So what is the experience like? First of all, how much does that cost, and what do you get to do for the money?
Well, they've got a whole bunch of different packages. So they'll bring you to and from their site for free. And then when you get there, there's a whole bunch of packages. And I think they really have every type of gun you could imagine. And you could just buy single shots. You can buy, let's say, 10 shots for, I don't know, $20.
I think it's $1 a shot plus the gun rental itself. So, yeah, maybe $20, $50, depending on what you're shooting.
Or you can buy packages. So my wife and I went, and we bought, I think it was the
Special Ops
package. Mm-hmm. Somewhere around $150 for that. So we shared it, and we got to shoot a machine gun and a pistol and a shotgun,
sniper rifle,
and a sniper rifle. So you really get a whole gamut of weapons. And what did you shoot?
So we're from Canada, and we really don't see guns at all. And the one thing that I wanted to shoot was an AK-47, just because I've seen them on TV and through all the textbooks and stuff that I've been reading. Yeah. And it's just insane, like what you can do. Like it'll reload when it's muddy or clogged with sand or whatever. So that's all I did. And I had 2 clips, and the first clip I took was kind of scary because I was shooting and I was all over the place. And so I just said, you know what, screw this. I'm going to try automatic fire for the last half. And it just, I scared a lot of people that I was with. And there's people that are there, they instruct you. There's a guy holding behind me. Like it's not scary at all, I should say, but they train you on how to use it. And so I was just totally off the mark. And so for my second clip, I got additional instruction from this combat veteran on how to shoot, and he positioned me correctly, and I unloaded the whole clip on automatic, and I was able to hit my target, and it was definitely something that I wanted to do on my bucket list, and it was an experience for sure. And I don't think after that I want to shoot a gun ever again.
How long does it take to empty a clip?
I think it maybe took 2 seconds at the most to empty all those clips on full auto. I'm just very surprised I was able to even do that. Like, getting a license here for a hunting rifle is tough for a single shot, and there I shot full auto. It was crazy.
Yeah, because I've never fired a weapon. And I would love to see with the paper target, see how well I can do, what my accuracy really would be with the kickback and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising how awful you are, especially when you first start, even with a good lesson on how to use it.
Is it really? Because I imagine it to be scary to have that much power and force in your hands.
For
Does
some
it
of the
hit you?
pistols, the recoil is pretty significant because there's very little weight to it. But with an assault rifle or a sniper rifle, it's a little bit more controlled. You can get used to it after a while.
I would say the instruction is great. This was both of our first times ever shooting or even really handling a gun. And they did a great job at instructing us of how to hold it, how to stand. They were right there as you shot it. So if there was any recoil or anything, that they would stop you from moving too much.
Yeah.
So I would say they did an excellent job. And this is the only gun range I've ever been to, but I'd certainly recommend it for people who want to shoot for the first time.
I imagine they go over the top in terms of safety.
Right.
And if you win like a jackpot or something, I think it's $3,000 you can pay, and you can pilot a tank and run over some cars in their parking lot. It's so I was kind of joking that if any of us won a jackpot, we would do it, but that never happened during our trip.
So can you tell me how you got started with your YouTube videos? You don't just have gambling videos. There's a whole series of videos here. I'm looking at the page right now. You have cooking, movies, bro tips.
Yeah.
How did you guys get started making YouTube videos?
Maybe a year ago, I just decided, I want to make this channel and put some kind of spoofs and goofs types of videos, not really thinking of where it would go. So I started making these terrible cooking videos. If you go on YouTube, there's all kinds of cooking videos telling you how to make really basic food like grilled cheese or, I don't know, just any type of like a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah.
So we decided let's do a spoof on some of those videos just for fun. And the channel just kind of grew from there, spoofing other aspects of cooking. And that moved into gambling tips because we're avid gamblers, I'd say. We're recreational gamblers. And when you're at the casino, you see some funny things that people do, some crazy superstitions. Mm-hmm. And we decided it'd be funny to do some kind of mock tips of gambling. And we thought we'd find it funny, and we hope that other people find it funny as well.
Yeah, the first video that I saw of yours was your blackjack video.
Right, that's the first one we did.
That was just a pilot project that we tried. We had no idea where we were going to go with that. Eventually, I didn't even shuffle the cards. Like, it was just completely random, and I just kept hitting people that were not supposed to go, and they just kept winning. So I'm like, okay, well, what do you do when you keep winning? You bet your winnings, and you just keep going. And then once you lose, you've only lost one bet. So
yeah.
At one point, we just had to get the video to end, so I just kept doubling everybody.
Yeah.
And from there, we just decided, okay, this went pretty well, actually. Let's do another one. Let's try craps. Let's try some other games, roulette. Who knows? And yeah, it just kind of took off from there.
I mean, I love the way that the videos start off with some decent advice. So
Right.
if anyone is actually looking for real gambling tips and they come across one of your videos, it does look a little bit low rent, but it seems legit for a while.
Right, and that's the way I try to make them, so that at the beginning you're not quite sure if this is a joke or not. The video is not the best quality. There's some lines at the bottom. The sound's a little bit off. It's a terrible music in the background.
But it's all intentional.
Yeah, so that's all intentional, right? But so you're at the beginning, you might think this is a real video. It looks a little bit odd, but maybe it's real. It's giving me real information.
Yeah.
And as you get further and further into it, you realize, okay, these guys are just joking around. And then at the end of that video, the last person gets 19 or 20.
It's a 19 against the 10.
And we say, you got to hit because otherwise you're going to lose. The dealer's got a face-up 10.
Yeah.
So we hit that card and an ace comes up, and we say, okay, we're at 20. But you're not just going to, you don't want to push when you play blackjack. So we got to take another card.
Hoping an ace would help you at that point.
and people are believing that we're serious sometimes, and that just blows me away.
But there's some people in the comments that are just like, no, this is completely wrong. Don't do what they're doing. And some of the videos have more dislikes than likes. It's pretty hilarious, actually, when we review some of the comments.
Well, that's what I find so brilliant about your YouTube channel, because the comedy isn't just on the screen. The comedy is also in the comment section, because someone will say something to the effect of, you guys are really stupid, and you'll reply, well, thank you.
Taking it seriously, yeah.
Right. Whenever I get a comment like that, I usually just say thanks.
So I love that you're hitting people on a couple of different levels.
I am surprised that it fools people because especially that one, it looks so bad that I'm surprised anyone takes it as being serious.
When is your next Vegas trip planned? Do you have any in the near future?
I don't think we do it this time, but we're never too far off, I'd say. We go maybe every other year.
And with the way that the Canadian dollar is right now, it's very expensive to go to the States. So maybe if the dollar gets a bit better, we'll head over there again.
How is the gambling up in Canada?
Well, the biggest difference in Canada, I would say, is that the casinos are all smoke-free. You're going to be very happy that things are cleaner here. The other big thing is that there's no tax on jackpot winnings, so you'll never walk away with less than you actually got. So if you ever win, I think it's, $1,200 in the U.S., you would never get taxed on that here.
Oh, that's really cool. I may have to make a trip up to Canada.
And one other thing is that if you like to drink alcohol, you're going to be paying a lot of money here because they don't serve you complimentary booze. It's all taxed and regulated here. So you're going to be paying $6-7 for like a glass of beer or a mixed drink. And
wow.
No way around that. That's just how things are regulated.
Wow.
And if you look intoxicated, they won't serve you as well.
The thing that I said about having to go gamble up in Canada, I think I take that back because I need free drinks.
Yeah, you're not going to get that here.
Wow, that's actually a little bit surprising. But I understand why they would do it that way. Because, when you're basically in Vegas, they ply you with liquor, so that way you're not making the best decisions at the table.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate going on for that as well. In Niagara Falls, there's a casino on the U.S. side and the Canadian side, and a lot of Canadians will go to the U.S. casino because they can offer free booze, whereas in Canada, you got to pay for it. So it just all depends how much you like your liquor, I guess.
Well, thank you for coming on. And hey, where can people find you if they want to look you up on social media?
You can look for us on YouTube if you just type in Jim and Derek or maybe Stan's Gambling Tips. You'll find some of our videos there. And you can find us on Twitter if you look for Jim and Derek.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, we heard about you from the You Can Bet on That podcast, actually.
Okay, those guys are awesome. I love those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they seem like really fun people to gamble with.
Yeah. I think they are.
Okay, cool, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. We love the podcast.
Yes, thank you very much for having us.
My next guest is Heather, the creator of Vegas-Aces.com. That's a website where you can go and take a look at some tutorial gambling videos, some basic how to play blackjack, how to play roulette, as well as it is the world's first online school for dealers. So she has a lot of tutorial videos on how to become a casino dealer. And what appealed to me the most when I found Vegas-Aces.com online is that it's free. Her belief is information should be free, education should be free. And so she gives us some information away for free. So when you do go apply for a job as a dealer, you have some kind of working knowledge on what the job is, and that might give you a leg up in terms of getting that job at the casino. So I have a lot of respect for Heather. I love what she does, and I love her philosophy. And for those of you who are longtime fans of the show, we have the return of Aaron in this interview. So please enjoy our interview with Heather. Just so I have it, how do you tell people? Do you go to Vegas-Aces?
Oh, yeah, I say Vegas-Aces or just Vegas Aces.
Okay.
So, but when I'm directing them to the website, it's Vegas-Aces.com.
And you are a Las Vegas dealer, right?
I was a Las Vegas dealer.
You were a Las Vegas dealer.
Yeah, now I do Vegas Aces pretty much all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, let's start with your beginning. Well, were you born here? When did you come to Vegas?
Yeah, so I'm second generation, born and raised native. And
where did you grow up? Like, did you grow up just outside of Vegas?
We actually moved a lot. So we moved about every 4 years. So I didn't stay in school for more than 3 years. And then high school was the only time I stayed like longer than 4 years. Or I should say 4 years. Thank God I didn't stay longer in high school. But anyway.
Most people do high school in 4 years.
Right, exactly. If it was longer than 4 years, I think I'd be screwed.
That was the best 6 years of my life.
You seem very smart.
Yeah. Senior, super duper senior.
Well, after 6 years of high school, I hope so, right?
That's not even counting grade school. Right. It's like when you're a senior in high school, you can buy alcohol for everybody.
Oh, man. But yeah, so I lived all around Las Vegas. And so I lived like the Flamingo Decatur area, the Summerlin area, the Henderson area, North Las Vegas. Don't ever move to North Las Vegas. North Las Vegas is a bad town.
Oh.
You get just a lot more crime in that area. Same with the east side. You get a lot of crime in the east side, a lot of crime on Boulder Highway, Nellis area. So the east and the north are really good. Like if you're going to move to Las Vegas, move the west side or like Henderson, Green Valley area.
Or Summerlin.
Or Summerlin. So yeah. And okay, just a quick story on Summerlin real quick. So a long time ago when the mob was running Las Vegas, Rainbow was the furthest you could go out. And it was all desert after that. Mm-hmm. So when they hid the bodies in that desert area. So when they started doing houses in Summerlin, the construction workers were digging up these bodies from the mafia days. And they had to stop construction, get the police out there, get the body up, all that stuff. So that was in the news for a while. Let me put it this way. It cost so much time and so much money for them to, dig up the bodies that I had a friend or two tell me on the, down low, which I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it's a great freaking story, that instead of going through all the time and money to actually dig up the bodies and call police and everything, sometimes they would look the other way and continue pouring the concrete over them. So me and my friend would always joke about it, how like the Summerlin houses are so expensive and they're probably built on like all these dead bodies from the mafia days. It was just something we used to joke about in high school.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I got a lot of weird stories like that.
Great. It's fantastic. But let's continue to get to know you. So you grew up all over Las Vegas.
Yes.
Or just outside of Las Vegas. At what point, at what age did you decide that you wanted to work in Las Vegas? Did you start working off strip and work your way to the strip?
Well, the first job I ever had, I shouldn't say the first job I had. One of the first jobs that I had, because I had many first jobs, was in high school. I was a henna artist down here on Fremont Street, downtown. So we would actually see a lot of crazy people around, because it's downtown. Just so people who don't know, Fremont Street itself is usually pretty good. It's usually safe. Metro police officers usually ride their bikes up and down the street, so, it's safe. But if you go anywhere off of Fremont Street, especially at night, it's not very safe. There's like a lot of druggies, a lot of homeless people, a lot of crazy people, a lot of drunks. So typically, it's not very safe. So anyway, I'm working
unless you're looking for drugs.
Then it's a great place to come to.
Then go there. Sorry, I interrupted. Okay.
Here's another tip.
Go see my friend Billy. He hangs out on this corner just off the strip. I'll include his information in the show notes. Okay, sorry.
It's okay, no problem. So one night I'm people watching, and this homeless woman is walking up and down Fremont Street, and she finally stops in front of my booth, and she drops her pants and starts pissing and starts taking a crap right there in front of me. So Metro rides their bike past. He does a double take, makes a U-turn, and goes back. He calls up like two of his buddies or whatever, and they're sitting there in a circle talking, having like a normal conversation, just having like a good old time. And in the middle of them is this homeless woman finishing taking her dump, because they couldn't haul her off to jail. In the middle of it, they had to wait for her to finish. So it's that kind of thing that you'll see when you're working at Fremont Street, and it's like a normal thing, but it's just so many crazy, weird stuff that happens.
But you're talking about when you were a henna artist.
Yes, and that was
used to see in Fremont Street.
That was in early 2000s area.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so it is safe to come down here now. That's a story from a good 15 years ago.
Right, it's a story from, 15 years ago.
So
just stay on Fremont.
To be fair, in that story, it would still be safe. You would just have to avoid the
puddle.
person
The
doing her
puddle.
business. Or the puddle.
The little stream.
Oh,
Sorry. Sorry.
but it happened. That's what downtown Las Vegas was.
Yeah.
But you started as a henna artist, and then
Oh, that was just one of my jobs. So like another job I had I would do 2-year-old daycare teacher. I would like watch kids.
Okay.
And then I did secretary work. So but basically all the jobs I did didn't pay very well. And my boyfriend at the time convinced me to go into dealing. And I didn't want to be a dealer. I didn't like casinos. I don't like gambling. You know, why would I be a dealer? And he's like, well, you like math and you like video games. These are like video games. It's just they're table games. Okay, you talked me into it. I'll go. So I went to dealing school. And the lady at the dealing school, the owner, and I did not get along at all. We had so many fights, and she hated me so freaking much. So, for example, it was a 6-week course, and the first week they taught us how to shuffle. So I'm learning how to shuffle. I go home, I practice, practicing. After like 3 days, I'm like, okay, I can shuffle well enough that I want to go on to the next step. So I asked them, okay, I want to learn how to cut the checks. And she's like, no, you have to do a whole week of shuffling. And then next week we'll do the checks. And then next week we'll do something else. And I'm like, that's bullshit. I paid you money. I'm good. Yeah, I paid you money. I'm good with shuffling. You can see I shuffle, and I shuffled for her. Now you're going to teach me how to do the checks, or I want a refund. So she didn't like me at all.
I don't know why she didn't like
Oh,
you.
yeah,
It seemed
totally.
really reasonable.
Well, see, here's the thing. They charge so much money for dealer schools, and they're not structured. It's students teaching other students, and they don't know what's going on or what's happening. And it's really a waste of money,
But you have to do it to get your dealer certification, right?
It depends. It depends on where you live. So in Las Vegas, no, you don't need to go to dealing school to get a job as a dealer. All you need to do is pass the audition. So if you go home and you practice shuffling and you practice cutting checks, you go to a break-in house, they don't expect you to deal. That's not why they're hiring you. They're hiring you for your personality. And if you can talk to people, and if you're inviting, and if you could keep the people at the table, and then they'll teach you how to deal. But people don't know this. So they spend $1,000 going to dealing school, and they're crap dealing schools that don't teach them anything. And then they send them to casinos, and the casinos are going to have to teach them how to deal anyway. Only now they're starting with all these bad habits. So after about a week of, bumping heads together, she comes up to me one day and she's like, well, you think you're such a hot shit. I got an audition for 3 of my best dealers over at the Gold Coast. You can go with them, do the audition, and then you'll see that you're not good and they're not going to hire you. And I'm like, ooh, awesome. Thank you. So I go to the audition. We all do that. And out of the 4 of us, I get hired and 1 other student gets hired. And I'm like, I am so freaking happy. I don't have to see her ever again.
nice.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I started dealing. And Gold Coast was my break-in house. So
Okay. And then how long did you deal for?
I dealt for 5 years total. I was at the Gold Coast, the Rio. I was a poker dealer at the Sahara for like a little bit. I did the Westin. I did the Golden Nugget. And during this time, like I said, I'm really into video games, so I was playing a lot of MMOs. And for people out there who don't know, an MMORPG is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. So that takes up a lot of time, obviously. And after a while, I'm like, I can't sink all this time and effort into level 80 characters, and I'm not going to do anything besides raid with them. Yeah. So I started, thinking, okay, I need a hobby. And at the time, I knew dealing. I knew how to deal table games. And I knew that there was like a void on the internet. There was no place you could go to find out how to deal. There was no place you could go to find out the toke numbers of the different casinos. Nothing like that. So I'm like, okay, my hobby will be to fill that void, and I'll just do it for fun. And it'll just be like whenever I can do it, I'll do it. And that's how like Vegas Aces started. So
Through a hobby.
through a hobby, like exactly like you.
What are tokes?
Toques.
I was just going to ask for our listeners that didn't know that.
I'm sorry.
Yes, for our listeners that
For all the listeners, I mean, I deal with those all the time.
Yeah.
But, for all our audience, what are those?
A toque is a slang word the dealers use to express tips. Like a tip is a toque. And the reason why they use the word toque instead of tip is because toque is actually a shortened version of token of gratitude, which is what they used to use in the old days. And token of gratitude was shortened down to toque. So tips are also known as toques. Mm-hmm. So when we say like our toque numbers, we're talking about our tip numbers for that night.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like verbal toques, though. You like toques that you can hold in your hand.
Monetary toques.
Monetary
Yes.
toques. Not, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks for the toke, Aaron. I appreciate that.
If
I was
they
just talking randomly. Not
If
to you.
the player just won 30,000 and they're like, thank you, then some dealers might be a little mad.
I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious. Have you had a crazy big tip from a player?
Let's see. I used to deal to high rollers, so I guess that would be my biggest tip, and that was, I think he was doing like about 5,000 a hand, but he was betting 25,000 a hand, so it was like a small amount for him.
But he'd tip you 5,000 a hand?
Yeah,
A
so he
hand.
put the tip out in front, and then we'd play the hand together, and then if he won, I would win 10,000, and he would win 50,000.
That's pretty nice.
And how long did the run go? Like, how much did you make off of this one guy?
I was killing him, so it wasn't very much.
Oh.
Yeah, if you, let's see, biggest toke.
Are you allowed to ask for
No.
it?
That would be called hustling a toke, and you would get fired for that.
Okay.
So you were not allowed to hustle a toke at all.
Is it okay to ask a dealer, hey, would you prefer it, or you want to play
Yeah,
it?
that's okay. The player can ask the dealer if they want to play or take it, but just so you know, the casinos require dealers to answer that they have to take it. They can't play it. The casinos require dealers to answer that way when they're asked that question.
Right.
So some of them won't. Some of them will be like, yeah, play it for me. But policy and procedures were technically supposed to say, I'll take it and that's it, and then drop it.
Right. And just in case this needed clarification, we're talking about tipping the dealer when you're playing a game.
Yes.
That's what we're referring to. When you put your bet up on the table, it's usually customary to also put a small bet up for the dealer, especially if you're on a hot streak. It's more than courteous. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's expected, but it's kind of one of those things where you should. Because
Yeah.
if you're doing well, your dealer should do well too. So, okay. Let's go over to Vegas Aces, because the story that you explained about dealing school makes all the sense in the world now, given that you can give the information away online for free to help people come up.
Yeah.
And you're not required by law to have any kind of certification or to go to school to get a dealing job in Vegas.
Correct.
So you're giving that information away for free online. You want to talk a little bit about the site?
Yeah, sure. So it started off as a hobby, but now it's grown into something. Basically, Vegas-Aces is the world's first free dealing trade school. We teach people how to play as well as deal casino table games, and it's completely for free. And we try to help people get a job as a dealer without having to pay to go to school. So that's basically the whole goal of Vegas Aces. I have a YouTube channel and a website. The YouTube channel I have training videos on, and Q&A videos and interview videos. And then on the website I have a complete tutorial on how to play and deal table games, everything written out with pictures, as well as instruction manuals, flashcards, toke numbers, and just some other miscellaneous stuff. So I basically just try to teach people to the best of my ability and try to help them in their career path, you know? I mean, the whole reason why it's free is because if people are out there and they can't afford to put food on the table and they need a job, how on earth are they going to pay $1,000 out of pocket to go to school to get a job to help support their family? They can't, you know?
Especially when it's not necessary.
Especially, yeah.
So what about to get the interview, though? Because one of the best things that I saw from your story, or that I heard from your story, is that this dealing school set up the interview for you? Would this have been an interview that you could have got yourself, or did you have
Yes.
a real step up though?
No. The dealing schools do have connections with casinos, so that way they could set up appointments to do auditions. But the casino does auditions anyway, so all you have to do is, one, either go to HR and fill out an application for a dealer, and then they'll call you for an audition. Or two, you go into the casino, go to the pit, ask to speak to the shift manager, and let him know that you're looking for a job and you were wondering if you could get an audition. And then that's when he'll be like, okay, we'll set you up an audition at this time. Go to the HR, fill out an application so it's already on file. I'll see you at the audition. And that's done. You know, that's all you really need. So anyone can do it. It's just they think that they're paying for that. And you know, you don't actually have to pay for that. You could just walk in and do it. But this is just for Las Vegas, by the way. Now, if you were a dealer on the East Coast, there are some casinos where you have to go to their dealing school in order to work in their casino, and that's the only way you could do it. So it really just depends on what area you're at. And with those people in the East Coast, basically what it is the casino will pay for your school, and then you have to work a certain amount of time, like 3 months, 6 months, a year, as a dealer for them without moving, and then the dealing school would be paid for. If you leave before that, you would have to pay for the dealing school. So that's how they do it in those places. And like I said, every single place is different. So in London, it's very hard to get a job as a dealer just walking in. You have to go to one of their schools.
So you've helped people come up
Yeah.
through your school. Can you tell me stories about any of those people?
Sure. There was a guy named Ashley that didn't know how to deal, and he wanted to deal. So he emailed me and watched my videos and everything, and he ended up getting a job as a dealer at Atlantic City. So he's really happy about that. In Russia, there's a guy that owns a casino, like party. What do you call it? One of those table game parties?
Like party rentals where you have someone come in and throw a casino night for you.
Exactly. Yeah. So they go to parties and they have like roulette and craps and different table games and everything. So he uses my videos to help teach his dealers, and he also gets more information from my videos. And then Dr. Mike Algren, that was another one, the professor from Penn State that I was interviewing. He uses my videos in his classes to teach his students. I have several dealing schools that actually use my videos in their schools, and it's sort of a pisser because it's like, this is supposed to be free. I don't really want you using my videos in your dealing school and you're charging people for it, you know? So yeah, that's why I put up the whole like disclaimer, you know, these videos were meant to be free. Because I've actually had some people sell my videos. They, you know, download my videos and sell them, and it makes me so mad.
Is that actionable?
I have a copyright on them, so I could, you know, do
Yeah.
a cease and desist type of a thing.
Right.
But I think it would cost me more money. And because I have the disclaimer on there, if someone says, hey, I paid money for this video, then they could get their money back, because that's what I have in the disclaimer, you know. If you paid money for this, you were ripped off, please tell the person who ripped you off that you were ripped off and kindly ask for your money back, you know. That's not exactly what it says, but that's basically what it says.
Right.
That's about the best you can do for this.
Exactly.
How do these people, not that it's expected, but just like when you're at the table dealing for someone, how do these people tip you or give you a toke back, you know, when they have a successful career? Do they end up, you know, doing anything for you?
Yeah, they offer their time and their energy for me. So I have a couple of them. There's this one guy who's learning how to be a dealer, and he's just became a break-in dealer. And he used to be like an Apple iPhone app or Android app person where they make those apps, a programmer, you know, where they make apps. He is doing me a favor, and he's volunteering his time and effort to make basically a flashcard app for Vegas Aces. Another one was I helped this one guy become a dealer, and in exchange, he's volunteering his time and he's editing my videos for me. You know, you'll see that on the next video that comes out. In the credits, it'll say editor, and it'll have the guy's, you know, name and everything. So I'm starting to get more help and everything.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, by the way, if anyone helps me, please email me at heather@vegas-aces.com because I could use the help.
We'll definitely cover the plugs, and also anyone listening to this information will appear in the show notes. So if you can't write it down here, you could go to facesandaceslv.com, and we'll definitely have all this info and links to all of Heather's stuff in the show notes. So let's do a couple of stories. I know you've shared a few stories. Did we miss any that you needed to share?
Oh my God, I have so many stories. I could talk for 8 hours. That's what I would do. I would go and I would be a dealer, and the way I would entertain was I would tell all of my stories for my entire 8-hour shift, and that would be it. And that's how many stories I freaking have.
Right. Well,
So
I mean, I got 8 hours, so I'm gonna get comfortable here.
we're gonna get some food, maybe some coffee. Do you want stories on cheating? Do you want stories on naked people? Do you want stories on bodily fluids?
Like, naked people.
We could do that.
Let's go with whatever story, because we've been going for almost an hour now.
Okay.
So I want to make sure to get whatever story you feel the best to share, and if you're more than welcome to come back and share more stories if you like.
Ooh, awesome! Because I got plenty. One time I was dealing blackjack. I had a guy on my table and he was card counting, and I only had one player at my table.
And let me just stop you real quick. Is just so for the people who don't know what card counting is. Card counting is a way to play blackjack and observe what cards come out, so that way you can place your bet when you know that when you're going to be getting favorable cards. And also, it's frowned upon by Vegas casinos because it gives more advantage to the player, where technically it's not illegal to do, but it's very frowned upon.
Correct.
So you probably heard the story about Ben Affleck asked not to play at certain casinos because he's really good at card counting.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. That was just for the people who don't know what that is.
It's okay. It's not a problem. But yeah, you're right. It's not illegal. The casinos just don't like it, and then they'll throw you out. Because a lot of people don't know this, but the casinos are actually private property. So they can throw you out for trespassing. You don't have to... It's not like it's a corporation. They have to have you in there. If they don't want you in there, they're just going to throw you out, and they're going to keep you out. So I had a guy on my table, and he was card counting. And my floorman comes up to me after I shuffled the deck, and he's like, cut the deck in half. And I'm like, what? Because normally you cut the deck, it's 1.5 decks in, and that's where you put the cut card. And he wanted me to put the cut card 3 decks in. So that's why I was like, what the heck are you talking about? And he's like, just don't question it, just do it. Okay, fine. So I do it, put it in, dealing. And he tells me to do a few other procedures, differently, that I was like, okay. And what happened was obviously the guy was card counting. He was going from $500 to $10 to $1,000 to $20. That's a big sign that you're card counting. And after about 20 minutes of this, security guards and Metro Police came to the table, and the player stood up, put his hands behind his back. They handcuffed him, picked up his checks, and they went to the cashier's cage to cash out the checks because he can keep the money. It's not like he can't keep the money. So I'm like, what the heck just happened? And my foreman tells me that was one of the MIT guys. Yeah. And he's blacklisted from Las Vegas. So when he entered the casino, the facial recognition software from the cameras caught him, notified us. We had to call Metro and wait for Metro to come, and that's when they hauled him off. But he knew that, and that's why he was obviously, betting so much and card counting, because he also knew that whatever he had by the time they came was what he was going to leave with. So that's why he was trying to make as much money as possible before they arrested him. So that's one story. Another card counting thing is, you're a bad card counter if you try to count cards on a table with a continuous shuffle machine. There have actually been people who have tried to do that. And as a dealer, you're like, seriously?
How can you be so bright and so dumb?
Yeah. Well, just because you can count cards doesn't mean you can actually count cards.
Right.
I had someone who actually told me, I'm counting cards. Do you think the casino will care? And I'm like, you've just lost $2,000 in less than an hour. No, I don't think they care. Go ahead, count for as long as you want. I'm sure the casino won't care at all, you know? So it really just depends. But yeah, you see some crazy stuff as a dealer. Oh my God, you see some crazy stuff.
Let me ask you this. Have you been creeped out by a guy?
Oh yeah.
Like, what's the weirdest creepy guy experience that you've had as a dealer?
I was at the Gold Coast, and it was this 85-year-old guy who wanted to be on my table for 8 hours a day for a whole week. And he wanted to tell me how his Viagra's working and how I should come home with him and check it out and see. And I mean, I had a full table of people. It's not like it was just me and him. It was a full table of people, and he's freaking telling me this stuff for 8 hours. He would follow me to my car. I had to have security walk me to my car because he followed me to my car, and he knew where my car was, and he knew my license plate. And it was like, oh, why can't I have like cute looking, groupies? Why do I have to have, why can't I have cute stalkers? I want cute stalkers. I don't want old freaking creepy dudes as stalkers.
Yeah. Is that part of the reason why you stopped dealing?
No.
Why did you?
I really like the rules and regulations aspect of dealing. I like actually dealing the games. I wasn't too fond of the players. You have to have a thick skin if you're going to deal. It's just, you have to. There's so many drunks and so many angry people that are basically blaming you for losing all of the money that they lost as they reach into their pocket and grab $500 more to lose in the next hour. And it's like, I can't help you, dude.
Yeah, which you, by the way, you forced them to do.
Yeah. Exactly. And they blame it on you, and you're the reason why my wife left me, and you're the reason why I'm losing my house. And I'm like, I don't think so,
Might as well blame your travel agent.
Yeah.
Or travelsite.com.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Thank you,
actually
Erin.
had one guy who was a cop, and he became a dealer, and he's like, I wasn't even jaded this much when I was a cop. I'm more jaded now as a dealer than I ever was as a cop. And I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, as a cop, you have some sort of level of control of the situation. As a dealer, you have no control. You have to take it.
They're your clients.
Yeah, and if the floorman's like, well, tough shit, I'm leaving you at the table, you have to deal with it. I've had people spit on me. I've had them throw ashtrays at me. I've had them throw their cards at me. The ashtray one was fun. Okay, another story. Whoa. So the guy was really pissed off because he was losing so much money, and he was way drunk. So he grabs this ashtray and throws it at me, but because he was so drunk, I was actually able to dodge it because he was moving so slow, Yeah. And the ashtray hit my floorman, my 6-foot floorman, buff, muscled floorman, and my floorman turns around and he's like, who the hell just threw that? We're all pointing at him. And this guy goes from being a macho asshole to a shriveling, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. And my floorman comes over and he's like, you have no problem hitting her, but you have a problem hitting me. Screw you, we're escorting you out. And he got escorted out. And it's just, you have to take abuse. That's just part of being a dealer. You have to have a thick skin. And that's just the physical part of it. There's, every single day it's, they're blaming you. They're saying mean stuff about you. They're calling you names. It's just, those type of players are not the fun players. What was really fun was when I was a dealer and I had people at my table who didn't care if they won or lost and they were just there to have fun. Those were the people I loved. Yeah. Because in 8 hours you would go by like that and you just had fun all day talking to people from a different state, and it was awesome. Yeah. It was just those people, Yeah. It's like you have different types of people when you deal.
Because, my thing is I do have fun. I fear that I'm the talky guy.
Oh, that's fine. We love you. Oh, you're cool.
That's my fear when I sit down at the table. I don't want to be talky guy, but I would love to strike up a conversation with any dealer, any player, and I'm saying what's going on. That's part of the Vegas experience for me. For Erin, not so much.
I'm the guy next to you that's like, why doesn't this guy shut up? No one cares about your stories.
Yeah. That's why we're friends.
Just
that's
come
why
on, just deal, and we'll share pleasantries. But I don't need your whole story. Never going to see you again.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
I had one guy at my table who was not like you, but was an extreme version like you, where he didn't want me to say anything at all. So I was talking to some other person. It was like another player, and he comes up to the table, and I'm in the middle of talking to this person. And he basically says to me, "Don't you know women should be seen and not heard?" And I'm like, really? Well, in that case, I'm going to tell you every single story I could possibly think of, and I'm not going to shut my mouth until you leave. Which is exactly what happened. So sometimes it helps to be a bit of a smart ass when you're a dealer.
Do you get in trouble for that, or?
I have never gone in trouble, and I have been a smart ass to a lot of players where I probably should have gone in trouble and I didn't. The floormen usually do a good job trying to protect you. So they'll usually side with you if you're in the right, and then they'll usually say to the player, "Oh, we'll write that dealer up. We'll, reprimand." That's what I'm trying to think of. We'll reprimand the dealer. And then, they'll pull us aside and they'll be like, "We're not really going to, just if they ask, say we did," that kind of a thing. But
who follows up and asks, "Hey, I told on you yesterday. Did they follow up with you about your behavior when I was rude to you?"
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So they usually try to protect us and everything.
It's good that they have your back, because with all these things, if they don't have your back, if your support team doesn't have your back, then it really makes a bad situation.
Exactly. And one of my coworkers, this was his story. It's not mine. It's only what he told me. He was dealing, and it was with an angry player. So he was upset that he lost a lot of money. And he ended up punching the dealer, reaching across the table and punching the dealer. The dealer kept his calm, dealt the next hand, first set of cards, comes around, deals the next set of hand, and as soon as he gets to the guy that punched him, leans over and punches him right in the face. And he did not get in trouble. The floorman was like, "Well, he punched you, you punched him. I think we're pretty fair here." Yeah. And, the player wasn't happy about that. But they ended up, I think, escorting him out because of the scene he caused. But, yeah.
And for assault.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Because the dealer obviously could have pressed charges for assault. And instead he's like, I think I'll take care of this. Bam.
I love the way he handled it. My only thing that I would add to it is I would add a bad pun and, say something like, "How's that for dealing a hand?" I've watched way too many 80s movies.
I love it.
I was trying to think of a better pun, but I couldn't. That was the best.
Now I'm just getting silly.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's save more. If you would mind coming back.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got a ton of stories.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I want to give you time to anything you want to plug, pitch, promote.
Just basically, if you want to learn how to play or deal any table game, come to my website, vegas-aces.com. Got flashcards on there, instruction manuals, how-to guides, and then my YouTube channel, Vegas Aces. So please come check me out. And Yeah,
and not only check out the site, but if you find any of that information useful, make sure you tip your dealer.
Yes, please go to patreon.com/VegasAces, and it's a way to basically support the content that you love. So if you love what you see and you love the fact that I'm keeping it free for everyone and you can afford, say, $1 or $2 extra, any help is really greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
And I would go so far to say, even if you don't love it, even if you don't like it, even if you hate it, go ahead and give a couple dollars. You'll still take their money.
I'm a dealer. Of course I will.
Yeah.
That's part of being a dealer.
I would like to add to that, maybe you're not doing it for you, but by keeping her afloat means that she gets to keep teaching other people who might be interested in supporting their families. So chip in if you can. Also, did we say Twitter?
Oh, yeah. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook.
And Periscope is one of the features that you provide to your Patreon donors.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Cool.
And also, if you know anyone who needs a job, who needs something that's at least $30,000 a year, then please send them over to my website, because I could teach them how to deal, and then they could get a job and they can make more money than, say, working at a gas station. So if you know someone that needs a better paying job, maybe see if they want to be a dealer, and then send them my way.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Had a fantastic time.
Me too. Thank you.
I look forward to having you back on the show.
I'll definitely be back.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for another episode of Faces and Aces Las Vegas. Thank you to all of my guests who came on the show to share their fantastic Vegas stories. Mixed Feelings Podcast, Jim and Stan, and Heather. All of their information and links to their content you'll be able to find in our show notes if you go to facesandaceslv.com. If you have a fantastic Vegas story that you'd like to share on the podcast, please reach out to us. You can find us over on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at facesandaceslv. Our email address is contact@facesandaceslv.com, and you can leave us an anonymous voicemail. If you have a Vegas confession that you need to get off your chest but want to remain anonymous, you can call us at 702-381-3657. Thank you to Aaron for helping out with the interview. Thank you for listening. And remember, what happens in Vegas ends up on this podcast.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.
Joining us today, we have a very special guest. These YouTube videos are well known for making people a lot of money. I've used some of these tips myself, and I've done very well. The YouTube channel is called Stan's Gambling Tips, and I guess someone found the VHS tapes and put them up online. We have joining us today, the one, the only, Stan. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me.
And I understand that there's somebody here with you.
Yeah, I'm Jim. I found some of these old VHSs in my collection, and I've been putting them up on YouTube to great success. So happy to be here today.
Oh, fantastic. And Jim, yeah, when did you buy these tapes?
Well, they were actually, I just found them in my grandfather's attic. They were just sitting there. I put them into my VHS player and popped up these great tips from Stan. So I thought, the world's got to see these tips. These will really make you a lot of money. They've made me a lot of money, and really happy to share them with everybody.
That sounds amazing. I know I've done fairly well by following some of these tips. Stan, would you be willing to share some of your tips with our listeners?
Well, I've been dealing a lot of high roller casino games for a number of years, and during that time, I was basically told, to never share these tips. But I'm far since retired now, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm more than happy. I don't think they're going to find me. So yeah, I'll be very much happy to tell you how to win at various casino games in the high roller room and only in the long run.
Fantastic. Hey, let's start with blackjack, because I'm a blackjack man. I really do enjoy that game. Let me present a couple of scenarios, and you tell me what the proper play for some of these things are.
Sure.
So if you're sitting at a table and you are dealt 19, and the dealer is showing up a 6, what's the proper play on that hand?
So on that hand, it's kind of scary, because if the dealer has an ace, right, they'll have 17. So you need to make sure that you read the felt and see if the dealer hits on soft 17, if they stay. So if they stay on soft 17, I think you're good to stay. But if they hit, then there's a chance that they might get 21 and that you might lose. And you're going to lose with 20 as well, and you're going to push with 19. You're not there to push. You're there to win. So make sure that you hit and get that nice ace or 2 to put you in a better position.
That sounds like some great advice. Okay, so do you have any craps tips that you would like to provide our listeners?
Well, a good place to consult is we have a video about how to win on craps, and I give a number of tips on how to improve your odds, and I even sometimes will get statistical percentages on how much they will improve your odds at playing. And one of the biggest things is to never, ever say the word 7 while playing craps, even if you're playing the don't pass, because it's just going to make the dice go out of control just by saying those words. One other thing that I would suggest is make sure you always put your hands up. If you're delayed throwing up your hands, even if you're not throwing or you're at the other side of the table, make sure you throw your hands up, because that movement that you make, you're going to generate a little bit of a gust of wind, and that'll help stabilize the dice and land on the number that you want.
Yeah, I'm trying that right now. I'm flipping my hands up in the air, and I do feel that wind.
Some people are pretty adamant at it too. They'll flip their hands up so fast to generate a nice gust of wind to help bring those dice in control.
And I think I might be able to make it happen because I kind of have a little bit of webbing between my fingers.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah, so that might help a little bit too. So do you have any just general casino tips in entering a casino, how you should behave? Anything you wanted to share with us?
When you walk into a casino, make sure that you are in control. You walk in with that assertive look on your face when you pass security, when you walk up to that table, because now the dealer is going to be sweating. They're not going to be able to read you if you're playing poker, for example, or if you're coming to the craps table, blackjack, what have you, because they're going to be intimidated when you place that bet with confidence and you want that specific number or that specific card. And the more you think about it, the more that you prove to the dealer that you want a specific number or card, the more likely it is to come up. Normally, it's only about a 1% advantage, so it's really not too much to go through all this work. But in the long run, it really is going to help you out.
Okay, well, thank you so much for giving us some fantastic casino gambling tips. I think my listeners will find this very useful, and it will help them to make a lot of money on their next trip to Las Vegas. Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to help.
Go, go. Chicka, chicka.